Okay, welcome back to the plot in middle of January. Apologies to start with, as I haven't been posting very much, as quite frankly I've been down here very little. Work and family life, Christmas, birthdays, etc. has all sort of taken its toll, and I let the site run fallow for a good 6 or 8 weeks, only coming down to harvest bits and pieces. Started to renovate some of the beds now, so I thought I'd bring you back and show you what I'm getting up to, what's in, what's growing, what I'm still harvesting from the plot, and what my plans are. So, front of the plot, you'll see my big compost pile is gone. That's been used to top up beds. There's still a small amount of wood chip which will go for building and renewing paths over the next sort of week or so. I've got 3 ton more on order. I will eventually get these big IBCs located in their correct homes. These tubs at the front here are all my very last planted potatoes, and they've got a few new potatoes in there. They've probably rotted, not too disappointed, as I still have significant quantities of potatoes still in the ground and in storage. I'll show you some of those in a minute. I haven't even bothered to weed these tubs. These are the asparagus, the spare asparagus crowns that I accidentally ordered. I say accidentally ordered. When I put the first batch of asparagus crowns in a few years ago, I ordered the first batch, put them in. Didn't think they were coming up because they were very late. So I ordered a new batch, and of course, pretty much the day they turned up, asparagus started coming through. So I did fill in a couple of dead spots, but most of the rest of the crowns have gone into these buckets for future use once I decide what to do with them. So. And they seem okay, and I will weed and top up with compost those pots in the next sort of month before they start coming through again. My onion beds, first of the onions. These are my ever reliable Sensu yellows. They represent my entire onion usage between about May and October usually, by which point the summer ones that are designed for longer storage will be growing and through, and will be ready for harvest to see me over the next sort of phase. There's 4 beds there. These 2 fallow beds I finally got planted with garlic. There's not a lot poking out above the surface. These were grown in, well, see over there, cell trays, so they have been subjected to frost, but the fact they were in the cell trays did cap their growth and size. So they will be later than others, but they should still provide me with a pretty decent haul. Those were Solent Purple, I think. We've got a very weedy, very grassy leek bed. As I use those leeks over the course of the winter, once that bed's empty, I will cardboard and top up with compost to help to stamp out some of the couch grass issues I've got in that bed. You'll see that this section is fairly weedy in between the beds. That's going to be addressed over the coming few weeks. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to flamethrower it or whether I'll actually hand weed it. This is all on top of weed-proof membrane, so it's wood chip on top of weed proof, so it's grown through the wood chip. This stuff has been down for 2.5, nearly 3 years now, so it might be, if I have a bit more time in spring, I might lift this up and put it into a compost pile to finish breaking down, and then relay some more wood chip in this section. Got a blank bed at the back there. Again, that's been largely cleared. Cardboard and compost. This is some more leeks, but a little bit of an experiment over this side. These were White Lisbon spring onions that went to bulbing, and I didn't have a need for. Once I planted far too many, it bulbed, and it sprouted from the bulbs again, multiples. So that is still. I suppose underneath there you might find more, but it's almost throwing onions. You know, I could come in. I mean, they're a bit raggedy now because of the weather. I could come in and cut the tops and use those as an onion substitute anytime I like, and it will continue to grow back. Haven't touched the 3 strawberry beds yet. That's a major project that will require a significant amount of time and effort, so that will be at some point when I can take an entire day off work to deal with. My raspberries, my autumn fruiting raspberries, I've started the process of cutting those down. Because it's so interwoven with couch grass, it's an absolute nightmare. What my plan is this year is to effectively treat it like a lasagna bed. I am going to put some, once I finish that, I'm going to bring it right down to the very base, put some cardboard on and compost to the top again, in the hope that it will stifle some of the couch grass. Now, it's extremely unlikely to stifle the raspberries because the raspberries come up later and warmer temperatures than the couch grass does, but also it's a much stronger rootstock, much more vigorous, and will push through. And quite frankly, it'll be about 6 weeks after I put the cardboard down, it will be soft enough and decomposed enough for that to push through, so that's not an issue. This is the asparagus bed, topped up with compost and a little bit of manure kindly donated by my plot neighbour. So that's my asparagus bed already. Next year, I'm quite looking forward to this year, because this will be the first year I can take a proper picking from it. I could have taken a light picking from it last year. I took 1 meal's worth and elected to leave the rest, so I took about 10 spears, specifically because I wanted as robust a rootstock as I possibly could get. This was a tomato and celeriac bed. The tomatoes have long since been taken out. There's a few of the celeriac left. They're not a great size. One of the things I've discovered is that celeriac and tomatoes do not make good bedfellows, so that won't be being repeated next year, I would imagine, because there's quite a lot of us. There's a meal and a half there for us, so that will be gone in the next couple of weeks. And once I get some more compost, I'll top that up, and then that one will be ready to go for next year. This one is this was a brassica bread, one of the ones that I just sort of abandoned at the start of last year once I had the broccoli, calabrese, that's the word I'm trying to think of, out of it. I just sort of left it for the whole year, didn't use the bed, didn't need the bed, so I just weeded it, dealt with it, cardboard and compost. This is another leek bed. We've had a few leeks out of here, but it's okay. They look fairly moth-eaten, but they taste delicious, so I've got no issues with it, frankly. And likewise, this is another tomato and celeriac bed where it's just the celeriac left. There might be 3 males in there because there's a couple of decent sized ones there. These 3 beds along the back, all slightly different. So this one will be weeded, compost and sandwiched. Weeded cardboard and compost sandwich, the same as this one here. This one in the middle needs to be weeded, and will be left until spring, because this was an onion bed that I planted, and I harvested as much as I thought I could harvest in the autumn, but I have missed just a huge percentage of these, which means that I'm going to give them a go to bulb up to a reasonable size. Now, because this will be the 2nd year, these will go to flower, and will go to seed at the drop of a hat. These will bolt, so as soon as they get to a reasonable size, they are going to be pulled, so they won't be tops flopping over the normal kind of approach with onions. These will be pulled as soon as they're ready, and then the bed will be prepared for something else, a later summer crop. My celery is looking a little sorry for itself. It's okay, there's enough there to get a feed from. Predominantly I'm keeping this in because 2 things. I want some celery to be able to continue to make vegetable stock, chicken stock, that kind of thing, and celery is an important component in that. But secondly, these are biennial, which means that next year they will send up more stalks, and they will also send up a flower head. Now, if I can get the stalks before the flower head, I'll have a really good harvest. I will probably leave that section of the bed down here to go to seed so I can save the seed, because these have been an excellent producer. They've been solid, and every time you took a handful it was back. My Vulcan is still going. I pick the occasional handful of leaves off of here and that's still going. That's one plant, and that threw up a flower spike which I snapped off and it carried on going. That's Swiss chard for anybody that doesn't know. So very happy with that. I will grow Vulcan again next year, but I'll grow a couple more plants. That was unfortunately the only one out of about 5 that survived. The others got caught in that cold snap. Shallots, 2 beds of those this year. These are saved shallots, so these are my own ones. I think I'm on about year 6 or 7 now. We'll see, planted fairly closely that way, good gap that way, because they need room for their roots to spread. They're unlike onions, which tend to have quite a small root ball. These have got quite an extensive root ball in my experience, because there's more plants, they're more hungry, so more nutritional need. You'll see I discovered a couple in my store from my stored ones that had started to sprout, so and grow roots. So rather than waste them, I just popped them in the spots for the ones that didn't fire, so hopefully I'll get something out of it. This bed is largely empty apart from the sad remains of the 3 spinach that survived. I'm not going to panic too much. I'll leave until spring, by which point these will increase in size dramatically. I'll take one picking and take the entire plant, and then I'll sandwich it ready for overplanting later on. This was supposed to be my late last gasp carrot bed, and I did get carrot seed germination, but then the cold weather hit and it knocked them off because they were so small. So all at the moment I've got is a weed bed. That will be hoed off in the next couple of days and cleared up. No point me resowing that until soil temperatures are considerably warmer, above about 10 degrees. This is my parsnip bed. Everything's dead, doesn't look much, but under there I can assure you there is a fantastic store of tubers, which I am slowly working my way through because I'm the only one that eats it. Come probably April, if I haven't eaten them, I'll lift the remaining roots, prepare them for freezing, and top up this bed. This is the first year this bed's been in here, so this is a typical drop. Bearing in mind this is quite a deep bed. It's dropped probably 40%, 35-40%. That's common in year 1. Years 2 and 3, because effectively will become effectively the base of it, then it will still go down a little bit, but it won't go down as much. Is that years 2 and 3 you'll lose about 20% thereafter. And, similar here, I top this up just with some compost on this side because I've still got carrots in here. I'm still pulling those again. Mostly I'm keeping these in here for timings for when I make stocks. That one is interesting. That was a brassica. I can't remember which. It's just sort of a tiny one in the middle of nowhere, so I plucked it in there and stuck it in there. These carrots will probably come out in the next couple of weeks, and again this will get topped up. Compost bins will need a big shuffle round in the not too distant future. So that's my liquid feed. This is a pile of what was the blighted stems. We've had enough hard frost to kill all those off, so these can go into a pile, a standard pile shortly. This one, I've been topping this up all year. Every couple of months it drops by this much. Right, so I would imagine there is up to about here of good rich compost in there, so probably half a ton, maybe even a ton, probably about 10 to 12 wheelbarrow loads, which will help to go on the beds. Those will predominantly go on the hungry plant beds because this is extremely rich. This has got chicken manure. Now I've now got rid of my chickens. I got rid of those in October, but when I had the chickens I was bedding them on straw, specifically because although you have to change the straw more frequently, every 7 to 10 days, as opposed to shavings where you could probably get away with 3 or 4 weeks. it breaks down almost instantaneously. So you put it in a pile, add water, add an activator of some kind, and because it's full of chicken poop, it makes an incredibly rich, fertile compost. Once that, one of the plans is to empty that. I'm going to move that, so this one will move over here by about 4 feet and forward slightly. All of the undecomposed material, once it's emptied out, will go back into that one, along with all the undecomposed material in this one. That one will move over, and it will effectively be, so that first one should be full with the undecomposed material from these 3 bins. Okay, so that will move down this end to go alongside this, and that will move. These will move over, but there will be a pallet composter here. The aim being that I want, because I'm moving it forward slightly, all down here I've got another row of pallet composters, probably 3 or 4 pallet composters there, because I haven't, I've got so much material I could add into those compost bins, but I just don't have the space. I'm having to wait to take up stuff to put it in there. This has all been cleared of the brambles, which were a bit of an issue. Come March, once it starts to bud, to avoid silverleaf, I will go up and I'm gonna, sounds awful, but I'm gonna absolutely decimate this tree and the other one next to it. They're much too tall. They are crossing, they're just terribly shaped, and I get that, they've been here 15 years and unkempt, so I'll need to effectively rebuild those. Just a little bit tidy up round by the shed, nothing particularly major. The back half is largely untouched. I've got to do, that's the rhubarb just starting to come back up again. That needs a deep weeding. I'm undecided. It might be this year, it may be next year, depends on how much time I get, and it might be that it takes a little while. I'm probably going to lift these. I'm probably going to lift them and build raised planters, because the bramble, as you can see in here, is just, it's pervasive. You can't get rid of it. It's just horrific. These round by the cherry trees, and somewhere in here there are gooseberries. I'm going to get 3 layers of cardboard down, followed by probably 2 layers of a heavy duty weed proof membrane, and then gravel on the top for this whole bed. So these will be permanent positions and pitches, and that will be that. Just try and get rid of and keep down the bramble. It might be that I lift the gooseberries and do the same thing, put them into raised planters at a later date, because it's just impossible. I've got two more beds planned for here. This one's doing okay. It's producing at the moment more cabbage than I can possibly eat. So you've got ones like this that I've just left. That's rotted where it is. It's just too many. That will go up and go into a composter once I've got space. I do need to cover this bed because purple sprouting is just starting. We've had one decent pick out of it, but the pigeons have absolutely annihilated it. So I'll want to stop that. So I've got covers, so I'll bring a row cover down and put that over. I might pull this one further down, I might not, I haven't decided yet. This end is largely depleted. Again, all these stalks have all been harvested, they just need taking up and putting in the compost. There's a good Savoy there. That looks awful, actually isn't. I will probably take that in the week. I'll take off the outer 5 or 6 layers, and there'll be a lovely white cabbage in the centre there. Other than that, again, more stalks. There's a lovely red there that I'm keeping covered, and then the Taunton Dean perennial kale from Liz that is under there is looking fantastic. I will probably take a whole bunch of cuttings, and there's a few people that want those, so I'll take those. This bed again just needs a clean up. This one's rotted in situ, needs to come out. That one is a huge, look at the size of that stem. It's probably not visible on camera, but that kale plant, that's my boot. That's how thick it is. Yeah, this kale plant has been absolutely annihilated by the pigeons, but you know what? I'm going to leave them to this bed. They can help themselves. There's a sprout stalk there that never really made anything of itself, so that one can stay. And a bit like this one here, you can see it's all blown until, apart from a few at the top. I might have the ones at the top off, but otherwise I shall leave this for the pigeons, because they need feeding too. And I've certainly got more than enough kale. This bed needs a darn good weed. Again, these were late planted onions that haven't quite made it. So these again needs a good weed, and then as the spring warms up and they start to swell, because they will run straight to seed if you're not careful, just boink them out. There are some baby brassicas of various types in here. Pigeons have had them, so I will need to net this section. This was where my corn was last year. This is an hour's work. It needs me to lift all these stalks, pop them on next door's bonfire pile, which he's already kindly agreed to, weed it and top it up. Either side of the bean arch, so this bed and the next bed, I need to take these stalks out, pull out the old tomato, give it a good weed. The celeriac is still in there, and has produced much better sized roots than the ones at the front. Although in the centre there, they're not so good. Got a couple of beetroot in here. Now I'll probably get those up in the next few weeks, because if I leave them till spring, they'll start to think about flowering and go all woody and tough. But yeah, so some good celeriac in here. There's one I noticed up here earlier, just enormous. This one here doesn't look much from this side. So you look around this way, you realise it's actually massive. It's like an iceberg. The vast majority is below the surface. This bed is brassicas again. The pigeons have absolutely hammered them. I'm not too worried. Again, needs a small weed to get rid of the grassing, but you know, I'm very much one that tends to live and let live. Pigeons will eat to their heart's content until the spring turns up, and then when the food pressure isn't so high, these will be allowed to carry on. And about June or July, I should start to see some of the fruits of it. These are mostly calabrese and cabbage. There's a video of me planting them, I think. This is my spud bed. As you can see, I've still got loads of spuds in there, including, here's some becoming uncovered, which is a no-no. Let's take that one up and come home with me. I will get these out probably by the end of March. I won't be resetting this bed, so it will be topped up with new compost and prepared for more potatoes next year. I won't be resetting this bed or reseeding them with new seed potatoes until probably towards the middle to end of April. My experience shows me that putting it any earlier when the soil is cool just tends to mean, or colder, tends to mean that the spuds rot in the ground. I did a whole series of tests, not last year but the year before, about how long a season you can get out of potatoes actually by planting them 1st of February, 1st of April, 1st of June, 1st of August, and then Christmas potatoes on top. And actually I found that the February and the April planted potatoes ended up doing exactly the same, and the April and the June ones, well, they ended up almost being harvested at the same time. So there isn't actually a huge amount of benefit to doing it. It's going to be down to soil temperature really. And particularly if they get knocked by frost, if they get nipped by frost and set back, that actually sets them further back than planting them later. this section's all been sort of, I've done a quick tidy, nothing too much. I'm not going to show you inside the polytunnel because literally all it is I left it entirely untouched, as I do every year. I do have some mice on site, not a huge quantity, but a couple of field mice, and there's a few chilies in there that are a bit scabby, not towards the end of season ones. I've deliberately left on the plants in there so that they can have something to eat over winter. That's one of the last things I actually do is the polytunnel, so I'll leave that till end of April or start of May. I'll go in, and in one day I'll rip everything out because it'll all be dried twigs, weed the beds, top up the beds and replant. It'll be all done in one fell swoop. So yeah, that's the plot. Middle of January, fairly quiet, but as you can see from the amount of potatoes and leeks and celeriac and cabbage and other brassicas, carrots, celery, spring onions. I've still got lots of meals on this plot, even if it does look sort of mostly dead. So you know, with a fair wind and a little bit of mealtime imagination, you could feed yourself easily. I could feed somebody just on my own for probably a couple of months from what's just sat in the ground being dormant. Right, well, that's it for me this time, and I will see you on the next one. It will probably be a few weeks away. It might be me doing the strawberries, or it might be just a general update as I've gone through some of these other beds and got them licked into shape and tidied up. I don't really know at this point, but I'll bring you back on the next one, and I'll see you then.